All right.
Uh,
Happy Monday, everyone. Shannon, how you doing, man?
and I'm doing good, man. Busy. What about yourself? I know you had a busy
Busy.
weekend.
Yes, yes. Busy, busy, busy. Just as most startups experience, right?
Yes.
So, hey, as for those that have been trying to follow the pattern, right? Every Monday we have been pretty consistently putting out a Marketing Monday, but this week we fell short a little bit. We got caught up and weren't able to record a Marketing Monday. So this podcast is going to replace that Marketing Monday for our audience. No, just want to add that in there.
As a little
And
caveat, yeah.
exactly. And today, what we're going to talk about, right? Mondays are shorter episodes where we try to jam pack it with some value. Is we're going to talk about the importance of communication. I think it's interesting the more and more sales pitches that we go on to, sales meetings, and just kind of hearing what the market is saying about their experiences with their different agencies. I think it's a recurring pain point, right? That we keep hearing about communication. And so I thought it might bring some value, right? Because I think communication, the beauty about that is it really applies to every business, right? And I think for today, I want to focus on communication externally, with your clients, and then also internally when it comes to do with your team. And so I wanted to break it up in that two segments, and then me and you can add in our experience, our thoughts, our 2 cents, maybe something to bring some value. But let's start with externally. Shannon, I'll turn it over to you. I mean, as we go to these sales meetings, as we have our ear out to the market, I mean, what are some of the things that you're hearing when it comes to communication between a business and its customer?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's lagging, right? It's not as strong as the especially in B2B, right? The consumer or the client end is concerned, right? Everyone says, particularly with agencies, right? Like, hey, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on in the back end, right? And that's one of their main concerns is, hey, I'm paying you, but I just want to know, what's going on in the background. You guys can be working on the best things in sliced bread, but I don't know about it, right?
Right.
And so that's one of the biggest concerns is, hey, I'm left in the dark about my own business, right?
Yeah.
That's definitely one of them. And I would say too, a lot of them also want to know, hey, what's your plan, right? Do you have a plan, right? And what is that plan, right? If I'm paying a marketing agency, tell me what the process is. And even when things, I would say having expectations to say, hey, as when Facebook ads come out, right, what should I be expecting, right? Like, is there a test period, or am I going to get leads right away as soon as we press on? Is there like a lead magic button that just fills
Right.
me with leads? Like, tell
Right.
me what's happening. I would say those are like the main issues when it comes to communication, specifically in our industry, right, in the agency industry. And I'm not
Right.
saying for those agencies out there that are watching or listening, I'm not saying, hey, it's always easy, right? It's definitely takes a bit of commitment, right, to be able to communicate with your consumer on a consistent basis, because it's like building a house and at the same time making sure you have a report letting people know what's the update, right? It's like, I'm building this and I can be building it 24/7, but definitely letting people know, hey, what's the blueprint? What phases are we at, right?
Right. Exactly.
Definitely.
And I think that going for us, going and hearing what the market says about that, right? Seeing what potential clients are saying about that, it has influenced us and moved us to put protocols in place with our own business, right? So now for me and Shannon, we, as part of our workflow, as part of our protocol, we have a weekly check in with all new clients that we'll be getting, right? That way, just to make sure that they're feeling okay about the service, making sure that they're aware that they're on our mind and that we haven't forgot about them after the sign up. And so that has worked out well. Again, we're in the early stages of this. I think the key for us is going to be to stay consistent and to continue to do this, which has its own challenges, but it's well worth the effort. I think that once small businesses get business, I think the next hurdle is kind of maintaining that business, keeping it, and that plays a big part with keeping the customer happy. So I'd say, definitely, if you're a small business and you're listening to this, it would be a good time to ask yourself, what protocols do I have in place that keeps me attached to my customer. Because Shannon, I know if you want to expound on this, you're welcome to. But I feel like one of our clients that we were working with, we were following up every week for the first few weeks, and then it got busy that third, fourth week, and it kind of slipped a little bit. You know, we didn't really get to follow up as quickly as we would have liked. And it's so funny because me and you had a quick session, you know, as we were talking about that client, and we were like, we feel the momentum is going away. We feel, you know, we feel there's, you know, I was sensing, right? You were sensing that, okay, we became detached a little bit. Let's follow up with them. Let's not let another day or another week pass. And it was so funny that we talked about that, because when we followed up and we actually talked to them, that was the vibe. You know, they did feel like the steam was going away from the service a little bit. And I think
Right.
having that kind of finger on the pulse, right, is really helpful to make sure that your clients are staying happy. What that means to us is going to mean something different to another industry, right? Whatever industry that the listeners may be in. I think the point is this: constant communication, some protocol will always help you to maintain strong ties with your client.
And you know, it's funny. I think one of the things that I realize is the client is not always going to tell you, right, what's going on in their head and what, you know, and if something's wrong, because we always assume that no news is good news, right? Like, hey, they're not reaching out to me, it must be all good. That's sometimes my assumption, right? And I even had a call with a client that I've been working with for 6 months, 7 months. And I'm thinking the fact that they're always paying me every month means that they're happy. They're speaking with their dollar. But when I talked to them today, they're like, we've actually been wanting to go in another direction the last month or so. So we're glad you called. I'm like, oh, I'm glad I called too. Like, you know, thanks for filling me in, right? Like, right. You know, and they were just like, it was one of those things that were like, oh yeah, we had that conversation. And it's funny you called because we were wanting to go in a different direction with our posts, right? In this last month. And I'm like, yeah, well, what are they? Right. They're like, oh yeah, well, this, that, you know, so, you know, they're not going to always. And that's honestly the biggest mistake I got. Maybe someone can learn from this as they're growing. The fact that the customer isn't, especially if you're on a monthly relationship with them, whatever that service is, if it's on a monthly basis, right? The fact that they don't reach out to you does not mean that they don't have anything to say, that there's nothing wrong, right? So I would definitely tell you, like, hey, just because there's no news does not mean that there's nothing wrong, or maybe that they just have something that they wanted to say about the service, right? You know, and if there's something good, sometimes great conversations and even referrals come out of that, right? And so, you know, or and what I've seen too, in some cases, in very small cases, I've seen this happen before, where I have worked with a client and I'm posting all the time on social media, and the fact that I never just reached out, they'll comment on saying, hey, call me because I need to talk about this or that. And that's the worst, right? Like, you don't want a client thinking like, oh, he's only going to respond when he's on social media, right? Like, that is the worst. But the overall message, and I honestly thought, like, if they don't reach out to me, but there are some clients that don't want to be bothered. There are some of those clients that don't want to be bothered. However, you'll get that vibe when you reach out to them. All right, cool. What are the numbers? That's it. All right, great. As long as you know you're getting me business, as long as you're doing what you need to do, don't reach out to me. But I made the mistake of assuming that that's the majority, right? So
that's a good point. That's a really good point. And I think that the way we clear that up, right? And I think that we're doing that now, which I'm happy about, is it's about even communicating that, right? I know that in one of our meetings, we were saying, hey, we like to check in on a weekly basis. We're going to do that for the first few weeks. But of course, after you feel the rhythm of it, let us know if this is something you want to continue on this schedule, or if you prefer a once a month check-in or a once a quarter check-in. And I think, to your point, right, assumption is what always gets us into a little bit of trouble when it comes to the client service business. And so that's a really good point.
No, yeah, I assumed for a long time, like, hey, if they don't reach out to me, there's nothing wrong. And that's just not the case. That's not the case at all. And with any good relationship, you know, my family always tells me, you know, that, hey, you know, a good relationship means good communication, right? Like, that's something definitely. And as the engineer side, it's very hard because all I want to do is just create ads, you know, fulfill emails, do everything I want. That's all I want to do. And to be honest with you, yeah, the calls means that I have less time doing that. Right. Like
Right.
you'll call me and say, hey, let's get on a 15-minute cinema. Like I could spend that time doing ads or doing that, but they're necessary though. They're for
Right.
sure necessary because at the end of the call, I'm like, wow, I got much more clarity. I got this or that, you know. So for the engineer people out there that are really into, you know, the dirt, as they say, and really into just the meat of it, right? You have to sometimes get out of that for a little bit and look around and see what's going on with the people around you, because you might assume, hey, and this is another thing too, is I rather say, hey, you know what, let me focus on my time on delivering the product, right? But at the same time, like you said, people need that communication. And you know
Absolutely.
yeah, and that's something that honestly, bro, you really taught me, because I'm doing better at that, but I'm always like, man, I need to get this product out. I need to get these ads out, right? I need to get this proposal done, right? But there has to be that communication as well of what's going on. And I think the communication is really important when things aren't going right as well, right? Because
Mhm.
sometimes what I'll tend to do too, sometimes, especially early on, what I did was if something wasn't working, I was so busy trying to adjust and fix that I wasn't even letting the client know what was going on. Like I might have been fixing and adjusting as I was going, but I didn't let anybody know. Because I'd rather come to someone saying, hey, I already had the problem and here's a solution. Like in an
Right.
perfect world, I'd love that. You just tell the client, hey, look, there was an issue. But I solved it and here's a solution and you're good. But during that time where I'm trying to solve it, I used to just not communicate with them. And that was the issue, because without the communication, things get worse, right?
Right.
Things get worse with clients.
Right.
So, that's a huge thing, man, is communicating what's going on, right? And communicating expectations. Because with Facebook, everyone thinks like, oh, so as soon as you press this button, that's when the leads are going to come in. Like, yeah, is that? It's like there has to be, like you said, we have to test, right? We got to see what works and what doesn't. I got to adjust a few things. We got to look at the numbers. We always got to pivot a little bit. But if I'm not communicating, hey, that's the process, right? And they're assuming, right, as soon as you press that button, I'm getting leads. I just really assumed that they were okay, right? Again, both of us are assuming, right? You're assuming that a miracle is going to happen as soon as you press that button. I'm assuming you understand the process of ads and how they work, because for me it's common knowledge, right? That
Right.
it just really blows up in your face. So I
Absolutely.
would say for people that are hiring agencies, feel free to call, reach out, as much as you can, and just and ask, maybe, asking the right questions as far as, hey, what's your process on getting leads? What happens when something doesn't go right? Because not everyone has a magic bullet or the magic potion, but I'm pretty sure everyone can get better results as adjustments go on. So I think asking your agency, hey, what do you do if an ad doesn't work? Right. And asking
Right.
yourself too, what do you do if something doesn't work? What is the process for there? What are you going to tell me? Right.
Right.
How are we going to move forward? Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. And I think that whether you're in our business, whether you're working with an agency, I'm thinking whether you are a real estate agent, or if you are a lawyer, or if
Right.
you are a car dealer, whoever you are, I'll share something that was shared with me that I hold close to my heart when I think about client service. Is a very seasoned executive told me, if somebody has to ask you for an update, that means you're not communicating enough. Because if you set the expectation properly, right, they won't ever have to per se ask for an update, right? So just a real life example. If we get a new client today and I say, hey, you gave me X number of dollars, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you how the first month is going to go. I'm going to tell you when I'm going to follow up with you just to keep you posted along the way. I mean, of course, if I stay true to what I'm saying, it's very rare that they're going to have to reach out and say, hey, what's going on? Do you have an update? Because I've already laid out, right, what's going to happen the first month. I already laid out when I'm going to follow up. And so that's a key. And I always hold that to heart. And it's funny, in my career, whenever someone does reach out and says, hey, do you have an update? I always think about that words of wisdom. And I think, I didn't communicate on that one. And that's why they asked that. And I just learned from that. So that's a nice little tip that I know I hold close, and maybe someone else can glean something from that. So excellent. I think that makes for a good segue to head into internal communication, right? I think that we just talked about external communication, which helps us to stay good with our clients, regardless of what business we're in. I think a fun little subject that we don't talk that enough people don't talk about is internal communication. So I think for anybody that's listening, if you have a team of one employee, or if you have a team of 50 plus employees, I think what remains the same is the need for communication. I'll speak from experience. Right now, as I mentioned on my introductory podcast, I have the privilege of managing 15 people at a streaming company. One of my clients that we work with is a big streaming company, and I manage a team of 15 in LA and San Francisco. And I always say this to them, and I really mean it. Is that they teach me really more, right, than I teach them. Because when you manage people and you actually take the time to communicate with them on a one-on-one basis, I mean, they really open your eyes. I mean, and I'd say that's why it's so important. I think for anybody who's listening in that has a team, here's an important question to ask yourself. When is the last time that you did a one-on-one with your team members? That right there is one of the most underserved practices of small businesses, without a doubt, because even big companies struggle with that. And I think that that's so important, that if you are a small business owner and if you have one team member or if you have 15 team members, it's so importantly on a schedule to figure out how often should I check in with my team member on a one-on-one basis. And the way I like to conduct it, I literally stole this from someone else. Like my whole career is like plagiarism, quite frankly. Like nothing is an original idea, really. And I just looked at seasoned executives, ones who really have a lot of wisdom professionally and personally, and I've gleaned from them. But I took this from somebody when they have their one-on-ones, they always ask their team members, I want to check in to see if you're happy. And I want to create an environment so that if there's any reason that you're not happy here, let's talk about it. And that could range from a number of things. And it's so funny, Shannon, I'll tell you this from my own experience. Since I started implementing that, right, with a team of 15, it's amazing the different responses that you get. Some people are very concerned about money. Some people are very concerned about culture. Some are concerned about what's the vision of the company. And so the interesting thing is you really get to see what the market says or your team says, right? And then you can know how to address each one personally. And I think that on rinse and repeat, checking in, hearing what your team members want, what's going to keep them happy, and then actually trying your best within reason to make them happy. That's how you really build strong teams. And I see that, at the large streaming company that I have the privilege of working with and being there on a daily basis. I see that culture there, and they do it on a multi-$1,000 employee level, right? But the principle is still the same. They perform one-on-ones with every department heads and every team members and every sub person across the board. And I think this was a good opportunity for anybody that's listening. Is if you got team members, ask yourself, when's the last time you've done a one-on-one with everybody? And I think that could really bring value.
How often do you think that they should be doing these one-on-ones? Let's say if you have a team of 15 or below.
Yeah. So I'd say, I mean, it's interesting. The answer varies, right? There's some that I've read in research that say as much as possible. Some say once a year. Some say, biannually. I can just speak from my own experience. I do it once a quarter. And I literally have taken that from someone else where I do 15-minute sessions. It doesn't have to be long and drawn out, but it's literally a one-on-one check-in once a quarter. That's manageable for me at about 15 right now. Quite frankly, if that grew to like 30, probably not. Then I would probably need another manager under me to kind of perform half of those one-on-ones. But I'd say once a quarter, in my opinion, in getting the feedback from my team, they have really appreciated that. And I think that if you are a manager or if you're a business owner and you're wondering that question too, I wouldn't be so rigid and stuck on a schedule. I would actually ask your team. Because some team members may say, I'm fine if you check in with me once every 6 months. And then I adjust to that. So I think what's going to help you and I be successful too, just in business, and I think this helps everyone, is me and you, and I think that's why me and you click very quickly, is because we're willing to listen to others, right? For us in our business, it's like listening to the customer, right? Or putting out an ad and seeing how it performs. It's like we have our own ideas, but what really matters is put it out, see what the market says, see what your team says, and then adjust. That's it. It's constantly the adjust game, and I think that takes a measure of patience, humility, willingness to be flexible, right? And I think that if you have those qualities as a business owner, I think that's the great start of building a good team. So I'd say it really depends on the team, if that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, and to tie it back to marketing, you got to listen to the audience. And I think especially on social media, it's so easy to listen to them. And what I mean by that is even if they don't say anything, they're saying something, right? How long do they watch your video for? Do they watch it? Right? Is there comments, likes, engagement? And even if there isn't engagement, because I've put out content videos before where there was like no comments, likes, or shares, for a minute. And then I'll get a call from a customer saying, I've been watching your stuff for a month or two now. And right. We're ready to go. And I can tell you that 80% of the people that do business with me from my social media and with the company is because, they didn't really comment, like, or share. They were just watching. Right? They don't really say anything, but I can track, with social media, I can track everything. So I can say, listen to your customer. However, don't get discouraged if you're not getting a lot of comments, likes, or shares initially, because trust me, people are watching, right? Like these lives, it's funny. I don't know if I told you, but when I got some feedback on like, hey, if you should do a landing page or whatever the case is, I also got feedback of, look, I've been listening to your lives, right? And people are like, we only get like 2-3 in the moment, but a lot of people watch that we don't even know, right? So it's funny, and I know I'm kind of segueing to like something part of it, but I just want to add a little caveat of, look, put out the content. Look, we have 1, 2, 3 people watching at the same, and thank you for whoever's watching. Put a comment, make sure to see who that person is. But trust me, I get conversations. When I call people or talk to them, they're like, yeah, I watch your lives, right? and we don't get a lot of engagement on them, but I'm telling you, like, people do watch. People do watch, and they're listening. Trust me, they are listening. You put that frequency out there, right? Something's going to come back, man. Something's going to come back.
And I want to end with this. And that's such a good reminder, because there are a lot of small business owners who don't want to put out content, because when they do, they always say, oh, I only get 5 views or only get 10 views. And really, they're missing the point, right? I mean, the reality is, one, put out the content. It's good for your brand long term. But then honestly, like, just real business 101, one of those 5 may be a potential customer. like we're not in the entertainment business, so to speak. We don't need millions of views to actually get real results. So 50 viewers could get a result. 10 viewers. You just need 1, right, to make this ROI positive, right? Me and you are literally sitting, in a place of business. I'm in my living room. It's like literally, it's just 30 minutes of posting, and I think that we want to encourage that, because the more you put out, it helps your business long term with your brand, but it actually even helps on short term ROI, probably in ways that you can't even imagine. So this was good. I think that we'll end it here. I'd say we'll leave the audience with this. Ask yourself today, how am I communicating externally with your clients and your customers? And how are you communicating internally with your team members? And if you don't have a protocol to keep that communication going, I think that's something that's going to really hurt your business in the long term. And it's something that should be addressed now. So that's it for today. Any closing words for you, Shannon?
No, I mean, I think you said it best. I've learned a lot from you when it comes to communication, because quite frankly, it was a weak point of mine. And I'm not scared to say that, because I'm always in the trenches. I'm always creating ads, campaigns, marketing. I got to finish this campaign right now. But, it's like, you have to do it. It's not one of those things. And as a caveat, I don't know why this is on my heart, but just, whoever's out there, when you're creating content, don't worry about the engagement, especially with the personal branding. When you're doing ads, that's different, because there's a lot of numbers that are involved. But when you're creating a personal brand, don't worry about the am I not getting these many likes or comments, likes? Because trust me, people are watching because people love to stalk other people, right? That's what social media is. Like, I want to see what the heck is going on with this person, with so and so, and take advantage of that, right? Take advantage of the fact that they want to know what's going on. Right. Give them something to watch, right? The good thing about social media is you can control the narrative of what's being said about you, right? So, you know, I would just end with that, guys. You know, be consistent. We didn't do a Marketing Monday, so this is the live Marketing Monday, and no matter what, we're putting out content. We're dedicated to that, and yeah,
Yes.
we're going to keep moving forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, good show, good episode, and we'll post something tomorrow to try to keep up with our weekly, daily video uploads.